So today's topic is a somewhat difficult one to get into, but again, it should be um, as easy as it is difficult to discuss. So before I had a video talking about some aspects regarding the Quran, and in it I mentioned some of the things that I've been going through, or some of the I mentioned some things regarding sexual content on the internet, and in that video I was holding the Quran, which again I think that some people might be like, oh yeah, well, that's a bad thing to discuss while holding the Quran, because it connotes a kind of disrespect towards it. But then from my perspective of things, I think that as an individual, if I'm studying these things or undergoing these things or going through these things and processes, it shouldn't deter anyone, because I think that my understanding of it ultimately determines the value of which respect is either given or taken from it. And I see it personally from a respectful perspective. In my viewpoint, it's not anything to disregard that, but it's just like one of those things of just like, that's what it is. If my flesh is at a weakened point, right, and so I sort of undertake that in that particular regard, right? So that's the experience that I experienced, and unfortunately, my flesh, body, and mind, which is also in sync, or ultimately trying to be in sync with the teachings within the Quran, but obviously ultimately it originates from that place, and within that book is detailed my experiences of realities, and so I don't feel any shame in that regard. I think that the only reason or the only place where people can feel disrespected towards that is if I was masturbating in the mosque, right? Or if that's a bad thing. That'll probably get if I'm in my right mind, that is, because sometimes people can manipulate us to make us look bad in front of specific people in order to deter our image, right? Or if, for example, I'm talking about that type of stuff completely out of context and being perverted within the mosque environment, right? That's the only time when that disrespect can be found, in my opinion. Not because that I'm holding a Quran and discussing those things, but I trust that whatever it is that I'm currently or whatever I was discussing at the time is of particular relevance. And I think that just to go deeper into that, I think that even if we look at most worlds in that time period, can you tell me an individual or a place where one would have ultimately not have known, or whose parents would not have taught him or brought the Quran to him or the teachings of Islam to him? It's nearly impossible, right? In like, most people were brought into that, and they knew of it. But even then, still, you still read about prostitutes in these books, in these holy books, right? Is also considering Jesus, you also see descriptions of prostitutes, which means that there were people who were enlightened, who had the mind, right, who knew about these things, but they undertook, but then they ultimately done unholy things. Right, so there was also, so people were literally sleeping with prostitutes, regardless of things coming into light regarding that. And I think that that's a very important thing to take into consideration when we pass judgment and when we discuss these particular things, in my viewpoint. Now, personally, for me, I'll share with you an experience that I shared with a cousin of mine once. I told him about this, where, in my flesh in a weakened state, right? I'm in a process of looking through these videos of a not so enlightening nature, of porn or whatever the case may be, and I see like whatever some clip on the side there, right? Like advertisements or whatever, and then it had like a you know like an attractive sort of woman, but she was sort of dressed like in whatever she was wearing, like a hijab and whatnot, and like and I was just flicking through videos, right? I've got my pants on my knees at this point in time, right? My pants are on my knees. I'm just looking at these heifers. No, I wouldn't say heifers, but just like just looking at these women that obviously put themselves there, though when confronted in reality, most of the time they probably say they didn't, because obviously, and obviously I'm there, right? I'm like my pants down to my knees, right? I'm there just freaking. I see this video and I found it quite enticing, and I was like, you know what? Let me check it out because it's odd, right? For me, normally it comes from a place of curiosity, I suppose, rather than anything else. It's not so from a disrespectful, perverted point of view. It's just like obviously, if I hold this woman with high regard in my mind state and with a high level of respect, there's gonna come that point in time where that thought is gonna cross, and that's what happened. This video was there, and then that thought crossed, and then I clicked it, yeah, bro. Like when I clicked it, like this thunder, it's like thunder out there somewhere. Like just heard it, just like it was a loud one as well, and there was only one of them as well, and I was just like, nah. I was like, nah. I clicked X. I clicked like I closed the browser, and I just pulled my pants up. At that moment, the whole thing just got fuzzy. So from that time on, right, like, because before that, I didn't really have that particular curiosity, nor did I ever actually look for thing. I might look like tan. I might have looked for like tanned or whatever, something different. But I never actually looked for like hijab stuff or whatever the case may be, or just like look for that type of concept. And then yeah, and then so man just said thunder, man. I just pulled my pants up, I closed the browser, I stopped right there. And then for then on about 2 years, 2.5 years, I didn't look at that stuff. And that was a strict rule that we had. Like there's no looking at, you know, porn of that type, right? And yeah, that was pretty much it really. And then hijab hookup came around, and then obviously I think after that they came a time, and then I just sort of broke that rule to a degree, and progressed onwards, and continued on just sort of looking at that type of stuff. Obviously these women aren't really like from that type of region. They're not those type of women, but like they even use sometimes like cheap hijabs. Like yeah, like who does that, man? You gotta get the proper. Like if you're gonna do a shoot or whatever, I'm just saying, yeah, like if you're gonna do a shoot, right? Don't get that fucking dirty fucking nylon shit, man. You gotta have to get like something more like man. Come on, man. Easy dirty fucking nylon shit. But anyway, those women anyway, the entertainers of that type, they just some of the types of prostitutes. They're not prostitutes. They're not obviously prostitutes, but they're like you can apply the same concepts in regards to religious thought as you would to aspects or to understanding them as would have been attributed to prostitutes in the ancient past. But basically, they're basically entertainers, or let's just say strippers, right? But there's no strippers in the. They don't really talk about strippers in the, in the holy texts. And yeah, that was pretty much it. So that was my experience, man. From that point onwards, I didn't really look at that type of stuff. And then after 2-3 years or something with that role, then at some point in time, I kind of broke it. There was a point in time I stopped. Like I had weird things in that particular process, but that was pretty much it. That was an experience, and to me, I felt as though that was a message from on high, man. But then I don't know what happened. I thought maybe probably it when hijab hookup came around, which again at the same time is used to entice everybody's flesh. Like we would not know who the actual like people are feral, man. People are feral. Like we haven't started running data analytics on porn yet, but we don't actually know who the ideal market is, who's actually watching that first and foremost, and I think, like it'd be very interesting to see, man, like those data. Like if you do, like, for example, by region or something, and you don't have to go into the personal data, but if I could hack a database, that would probably be the databases I'll be looking at. Some type of porn site databases to derive some sort of meaning as to what's actually happening and what people's fetishes are based on the region that they live in. But people are pharaoh in this world, and I think, we they are allowed that right to be pharaoh as they may. But I'm too conscious, man. I don't know what happened. Like, I done some exercises and I'm too conscious when busting nuts, man. For the most part, at least when I'm in the process. So I think that that definitely plays a part. Yeah, for the so yeah, so that's pretty much that for the most part. Yeah, that's pretty much. Now let's just talk about Jesus for a minute, which I think is the key bit. So I have this Bible, man, but I don't trust it too much because I can't really remember if it's the authentic one that I had. It just popped up one day, but I can't remember how it got there. I don't know if I pulled it out and put it in a particular place, or because it must have been in a box. And then but yeah, man, this is premium shit, man. Premium quality shit, man. Like if you look, Old Testament is weird. Like there was the one about the red heifer. Oh, that was funny, man. Regarding, yeah, man, the Old Testament's got some quality shit, and if you got like some good people to narrate, right? That's another thing as well, right? Spirituality, right? I feel a lot of people have been let down in this world regarding spirituality, right? I would rather people pursue things within the Abrahamic religion, right? Religions, rather than they go outside to some fucking nonsense, esoteric or nonsense occult bullshit that's out there, right? Rather than they go to some nonsense paganism, I prefer they abide to the Abrahamic law, or to at least the Abrahamic religions. That means Judaism, Islam, and Christianity to a degree. But especially for Christianity, a lot of people are being lost, right? Going off to some fucking, because they lack that magic, they lack that understanding. But those explanations are there. But they're gonna have to dig deeper. You have no clue, right? The Old Testament is some premium ass shit, like magic shit, like quality stuff, like super quality, man. Okay, yeah, you see, right now I just found Deuteronomy. Yeah, Deuteronomy 12:4. It states, "You must not worship Jehovah your God in that way. Rather seek Jehovah your God, whoever he chooses to establish." No, choose, right. You must not worship Jehovah your God in that way. Rather seek Jehovah your God wherever he chooses to establish his name and his place of residence among all the tribes, and go there. See, that's what I'm stating right now, is exactly that. Like, don't. I just flicked some pages and I'll end it there. So don't, please don't go there or let people be led astray to some other nonsense that's out there. Rather, it's better for them to stay within the Abrahamic religions. You know, it's so much better because there's so much occult out there, man. Man's been in the occult, man. Man's done did the occult, but there's nothing better than what I found in the Abrahamic religions within the occult. Hands down. Hands down. So you just had a fucking end there, man. Stresses on my life, man. Stresses of life. But yeah, man, that's the legit truth there. So yeah, man, I got this Bible here. I don't know if I really use it. Should I really highlight this, man? Now I've got that. I've said it, so I remember it. I'll know where to find that if I need that again. But yeah, man, that's pretty much it. Whereas like the Quran's a bit more chunkier though, you know, looks better, looks a little bit better though. But I think we find the whole similar stuff. But I think we misconstrued a number of different things here. I don't know what's the differentiations between the language here. Okay, I just read a verse in here. I ain't gonna read it right now, but I think okay. Here's one thing I'm gonna say. Right, I just read that verse. I'm gonna just extrapolate on that because I think it's probably sort of relevant. It's like don't look down on like some people use this thing as a way to uplift themselves and say that they're better than others. But I think that's definitely wrong because what happens is, and I've seen this a lot in the afterlife, right? A lot of people will die and they'll spend their life in death looking for people to shame, right? They're gonna spend their life in death looking for people to say that they're not doing this, they're not doing that, or they're they're gonna spend their life and spend their death or their afterlife looking for people to look down upon. Is the meaning of that verse I just read there, and I'm gonna read it fully, man. But if you want to find it, it's in Surah 9, Tabua, somewhere in there. I ain't gonna be, because it's a bit too specific, you know. But yeah, man, a lot of people would do that. They will spend their life in death, like literally wandering their afterlife, looking for people to look down upon. But in truth, you know, um, it's themselves that they're looking for ultimately. I think it might be that realization that might set them free. But you know, they say after death, the mind stops. Um, yeah, that shame for that. But then again, for Jesus again, right? Jesus was a change maker. In my viewpoint, Jesus was ultimately a change maker, right? That's what he was, and he suffered for that. He just did it wrong, right? He couldn't approach these people in the way that he should have, and for that he was punished. So it's very difficult to deny the crucifixion because, you know, the guy was crucified for what he did. You know, it's very difficult to deny the crucifixion. So he was a change maker, but then he was a radical change maker, and that was his ultimate downfall, right? And everyone should learn from this. You know, there's these processes and procedures within reality and life and work, and you gotta abide by those. Otherwise, you know, you end up the same path as Jesus, but without the same luck of his resurrection, right? And that's what ultimately that was. And then that's when that came the New Testament, where then they ultimately attempted to do the right thing and attribute information and knowledge in the correct manner. So yeah, that's pretty much it really. Guy was a change maker, tried to do good things, but he went about it the wrong way, and I think we should all learn from that. Is the first and foremost thing. That's what I really wanted to share, really. You know, so yeah, so ultimately we're pretty much, you know, all together. So regardless of whatever you sort of abide in, be it the Quran, the Holy Bible, or specifically the New Testament, which is in itself Christianity, and then the Judaism, which in itself is or the teachings of those of Judaism. You know, it's just important to understand that we're sort of all together in this. And I think out of the whole, yeah, I think and I think that we're pretty much together in this. Because for me, I think initially it was quite difficult for me to find content, especially spiritual content, from post thousands from. I think normally things tend to start around 1,400 years was where we started to first see manifestations. But now I know how to find content from the first century, all the way up to the more mid, what we call the dark ages. Yeah, because it's quite difficult to find information like 1,300 and 1,400, even 1,000, like between 1,001. These areas here. It was quite difficult for me to find information around that time period. But then I learned how to find it because it was the information was there for people to consume. But yeah, that's pretty much it, man, for me. Um, yeah, man, definitely. I love the content. I love the books. And I know what happens when I read them, so I take my time with them, and I read only specific scriptures. I might one day read from page to page, though, page cover to cover, though. It might happen one day, but let's not say nothing. Probably, I'm gonna need to have a bit of cash on the side to actually sit down and actually say, okay, cool, man, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna get some mangoes. I'm gonna get some food. I'm gonna get some lovely music. I'm gonna, because I can't be working for the end. You know what I mean? I gotta be like in a state of like actually blissness, so that my mind can actually be transported to those places and be with those people. But yeah, you can learn a lot from these things. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. I think also that I should mention that like my, although I don't know why I mix these things, man. But for me, yeah, the vid that had me the most hooked, or at least what I feel as though is my fetish, or at least what I feel as though is my hijab sin thing, right? So I understand where my sin can originate from, given in that environment. I think it would probably be the one, the in the hijab hookup section thing content. There's the Maya Farrell psychology video. That one, man, I think for me that would definitely be a culmination of the things that would weaken my flesh. But obviously I can advance and strengthen that past a particular point, because I know that there's things that I can't do, things I wouldn't want to do, because as an individual I've become aware and I've become into that light where, like, for example, I wouldn't do anything with another man's wife. I can consciously say that, like with the awareness. I know that I wouldn't ideally. Yeah, but that's just pretty much it. At least I mentioned that, because I think there was a thing of me just trying to understand how my flesh can be weakened, because, like I said before, I did have like a 2-3 year period where I didn't watch that stuff, but I was watching other stuff, But then again, there was a time when that was broken, and that law process, that thought process, was inhibited, and then I ended up just like, So yes, that's pretty much it. But I think in that, at least, they say that you should always learn something from your sin, because if you don't, then you will lack the wisdom to understand the reasoning behind the teachings of God. And in learning something from your sin, you're learning to listen to God. And for me, I feel that was pretty much it, to watch myself in those environments and situations. Though I believe that I'll be strong enough and wise enough to not make foolish and stupid mistakes. Yeah, I think that's probably it, really. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Just wanted to share that. I might go into content regarding other things, but I swear that's the last time I'm talking about this, especially in association with the Quran and other things, and specifically the Quran, because I know a lot of people can be touchy within that particular environment. Um, but yeah, man, I just wanted to just get that because that was on my mind, because I knew that I spoke about it before, but I didn't really go into depth as to regarding it, and I just wanted to just bring light to Jesus and what he did and what we should also learn from him. I hope you enjoyed this video. Feel free to like, share, comment, and subscribe.